Good morning, folks. Let me see if we are up and running. Jump into my channel here. We'll check my signal. I will post the social medias. I'll give you an origin story, and then we'll get to work.
Social medias.
Hey, it sounds like the signal's coming through loud and clear today. That's fantastic. Where's our volume set at right now? 31. Okay. Noted. Let's do our social media updates here, and I will click through on this, and then here, and then we can drop this off, remove the embeds. Okay, there we go. And now I can hopscotch over here, copy paste. All right, cool. So I'm getting up and running here on my social medias. Let me just take a quick story here. My name is Phil Kearney. Hey, I create role-playing games, I illustrate them, and I publish online. I have been DMing role-playing games, D&D specifically, since 1987. I've had a number of different role-playing games and styles of campaigns that I've both played and DM'd since then, but I always end up DMing D&D again. I've been using Eberron as my homebrew campaign since 2006. Thank you. Get my calendar straight there. Happy 20th anniversary for the Eberron setting. I think that was back in was that in July, I believe. And I've been creating content on the DMsGuild since 2017. This is the first time I've published an adventure. You can see here on the screen, Crystals in a Bar. It is an adventure for 4 to 5 characters, level 7 to 8. In the Eberron campaign setting, you're fighting undead and necromancers in the Carnwood of Karnath on the continent of Corvair. Oh, wait, no, this is just the token that I created last time, and you should have been seeing, I screwed up, but you should have been seeing this cover that I created. This was back around episode 40 of this stream that we're currently in. Here, let me shift my windows around here. Let me see what I got going on. There. Book cover. This will be on the DMsGuild once it publishes. All Eberron IP content that's produced is either fan content or if published for compensation on the DMsGuild. DMsGuild.com. All the work that I've done for 5e has up to date been on DMsGuild.com. Hey, check it out. I'm on the X Twitter platform. I'm at Phil Kearney. If you want to tag along, you're most welcome to. Otherwise, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon to get notifications of when we're live in the future. And yeah, this book cover here was on episode 40. Here's the full list of all 304 episodes. And here's where a bunch of my books have been published. Check those things out if you think they're cool. You can also jump into my Patreon if you just want to encourage me to continue providing free previews for all the work that I do. That would also be amazing. But we're creating tokens today, so let's create some tokens. All right, so as I was discussing last time when we started creating the sketch, the Houndsman is one of the NPC villains that's part of the Emerald Claw. He is a Beastmaster with connections to Shadow Mastiffs. So there are Shadow Mastiff random encounters throughout the adventure. If if the team encounters a Shadow Mastiff, there is basically like a 1 in 6 chance that he's going to be using Beast Sense to see through that specific Shadow Mastiff. If you run across like 4 of them, then you've got a 4 in 6 chance that he's going to be looking through the eyes of that pack. And if he does, then he becomes aware of the team, and the jig is up, as it were. The helmsman will know that the team is present, and if they're hostile, then the facility can be on high alert of invasion presence. So the team may be concerned about giving away their position. They might want to attempt to be stealthful in exploring this space, but the DM can pop that basically on the team anytime they want. So we're making a new pose for the helmsman and getting him seen a little more rangerly, perhaps is the right term. Oh, I cut that off? Oh, I cut off this shit. Okay, cool. Merge. So for now, we're going to be bouncing between creating NPC tokens and a farm homestead map for characters to fight undead and explore. Hey, Rel, how you doing? You, yeah, you're on board with us tonight. I think we should have at least 3 tonight, maybe 4 if both Kitty and Alex are able to tap in again with us. Those legs are feeling pretty good, but I think the body's a little top heavy. No. Paste. Free transform. Cheap, easy way to drop a belt in on a character. And we just filled the space that was opened up by that with some filigree and equipment. See, even villains have fanny packs. I'm gonna take this. I think I want to skew it. I think I want to mess with perspective on that. Let's do that. Let's use the perspective tool. Free transform. Here and we'll skew that. That's off angle. I can have hips shifting that way, but I need to make sure that the knees stay aligned over the toes. Otherwise, you're breaking his ankle. Hello, hello. How's your weekend been, Earl? I had a pretty good weekend. I spend time off stream on Sunday as my quote-unquote day of rest. Spend time with those I care about. That it's very top heavy right now. Messing around with this space. I'm trying to fill his body proper. It's not a bad look. The bulk feels about right. I just don't like the I need to stretch that thigh out a bit and turn down that knee plate. That's what I need to do. Get that on board there. Now we're starting to get some of that curve going. Well, my day just started. I wake up maybe like 10 minutes before I start streaming, which is why there's a variable time where I'll start. Last night was good. We got all of the item and equipment descriptions completed for the adventure, so technically everything that's needed for this adventure is now in the Google document that I've been utilizing. There's a few notes and comments along the way that need to be addressed and double checked, but I'm thinking I can have that done hopefully by this weekend, and then I should be just about at a point where we can be looking at doing page layouts. So this thing is getting built. It's written, and now I'm potentially looking at how do I need to trim down or make more efficient use of the text space. So we'll be dropping it pretty shortly into a Word document to start working on the formatting. And we've got a lot of options. We could do a horizontally aligned book that basically has two 8.5 by 5.5 inch pages that are facing each other. We could just do a traditional 8.5 by 11 standard. We could do a 9 by 6. So there's a number of different ways we could play it out. And I honestly have no idea what the. I mean, I know that the DMsGuild when it previews things, it stays in the 8.5. It defaults to the 8.5 by 11 format. So your page, if you do a double page like a horizontal page, it'll be halved and stuck at the top half of each page. So each bottom half of the page will be blank, which is really obnoxious. But that's a free preview, so it's not like it's there to be convenient. Well, I put it there to be convenient for you for referencing, but that's not why they put it there. They put it there so that you can see what it is and spend money, and whatever format it is that you go with, and that's how it's going to look. So I respect it, but it's a definite design decision to make while I'm on that platform, or any platform that matter that's going to require a page to be depicted a specific way, even if it's not formatted in that manner. Anyway, small ramble, but yeah, we'll be very shortly figuring out like how we want to build this thing, and as we go through the process, we'll have to cut up the map into small digestible pieces on each page, and build a navigation bar for it, along with arranging all the text and choosing our font and language and our background coloring. And that's it's all. I'll see how much I can of that process I'll be able to share here on screen, because I know that page layout stuff, like just the hatching out of like how many words can I afford to have on this particular line, if I need to accommodate this map between these two paragraphs of text, that sort of thing. Or like, am I going to limit, like have a specific format for each page and place the map segment on the exact same position on each page, so that you can have a rhythm looking for the page that, looking for the room that you want? Or do we want to have some sort of a variable or a dynamic placement so that each page describing a room will be differently? Can I fit the description of a room on a single page, or do I always need a 2-page spread? And so what does that mean for the rooms that have less content in them than others? Blah, 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 blah. These are all the details that we shall be hashing out. Oh, I get it. I know what I don't like about this now. It's the shoulder. It's the shoulder on this dude that feels weird. Okay, I'm going to cut that one there, and we're going to come into here. I should be able to probably cut it off there and bring that in. And then we'll grab his arm. There, that feels more aligned. And now I can redistribute here. I see text. Give me a second. I'll catch up with you. This guy is basically a ranger, but since he's an NPC and you only really expect him to last one battle, I don't need to give him a spell list and ranger half casting resources. Between his shadow mastiffs and combat maneuvers that he can perform, he's got plenty of action economy and plenty of ways to waylay and damage the team. So I don't need to bother with any of that stuff. What's up? Hey, me too. See what you guys get into. You did well against the huge wyvern last time. You being able to bash it down so it has to go back and take a long rest is a great way to stabilize the environment, to have less threats coming at you as you're traversing the open space. Make you a little bit, hopefully make you maybe a little more bold about traversing open space for a while. See if you can get your way. I mean, you're making your way through the hex, so you're facing the you're getting a grip on the kind of challenges that are in that terrain. And now you face one of the larger CR creatures, and although it certainly can take a chunk out of you, you're able to survive it. So that is fantastic news. I want to turn this just a little bit more. You got to keep the knee over the toes. They have to face the same way, otherwise you break his ankle. Delicate creatures you're painting. I can give him a lean. And then give that foot a tilt. This there, and then overall there. I don't have as much talky going on today than I think I usually do. There. I've got that hand going on, but I don't know if I like it or not. Let's bring that in a bit. I like that pose. And he's got that stay back sort of look. That's the attitude that I'm going for with him. Because he's a defender. Basically, he's basically Karen's bodyguard. I don't think I want him looking directly at you. I don't like that he's looking at us directly. Let's not erase. Instead, let's duplicate in case I realize I'm completely wrong and regret losing it. Hey, what's up? That's okay. No one's requiring anything. I'm just getting art done. That's what we're here for. But yeah, you got something on your mind. Shoot, dude. Put them at an angle instead. Oh yeah, we can show off the size of the muzzle. I will get to that in a second. Let me just get the skull structure here the way that I want it. Oh, hey, what's up? Okay, so yeah, I'm from America. Is it true that a lot of people there aren't well educated and also other nations? And if so, why so? Because America is massive. It's like 2,000 miles across. It's basically take Europe and give it one border. Like EU is our stomping ground. So, like. Maybe you know a smattering about the English Isles, and maybe you have an idea of what the coastline in Italy is like, and maybe you have an idea about what border tension is along Russia. But I'm aware of all those things in America. I'm aware of border tension with Mexico. I'm aware of regulation and the ease of traffic in Canada to the north of us. I know what it's like on the Pacific coast of California. I know what it's at the Atlantic coast of New York. I know how life and attitude changes from a liberal mentality at northern eastern border along the Atlantic Ocean shoreline, and how it becomes more conservative the further down the line you get and the further over to the right that you get until you get to the desert. I have spent years in the desert. I know well Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas. And I've spent time in Colorado, which have high mountains and deep forest. I grew up as a child on a ranch in Missouri where I shoveled horse shit for horses my entire junior high and high school life. I then, spent a vacation in Oklahoma and Kansas, which is flatland fields. I live in Seattle now, which has a temperate rainforest, which is amazing. I've been to Alaska, which is technically outside of the continental America borderline, but is still America, and it is nothing but mountains and deep forest, maybe like the Alps. I don't think Europe has a desert in it at all. Some of you guys have coastline, but we have both hot and cold coastline, and we have the Gulf inside of Florida and Texas. So we don't need to know about other countries. Most other countries sit inside the space that we occupy geographically. We're incredibly diverse. And our dialect, even though we have one united language, our dialect varies incredibly from border to border. And there's huge differences in economic areas per state and within that state as well. So there's a larger system, and then there's microsystems inside of each of them. And they all have different politics and different laws because each state has their own laws. So you might not be really familiar with maybe like parking laws in Germany. I sure as fuck don't know what they are in Louisiana, but they're probably something used similar to what's here in Seattle. But yeah, massive diversity here, so we don't really need to know about it. Oh, does it? Okay, I don't mind being wrong. We have two deserts in America. We have a north and east of the Cascade Mountains here in Washington State, south of the Canadian border. There is the East Washington Desert, And then we have the one that everyone knows about, which stretches from Texas through California and up to Colorado and Nevada. Different types of different feel, but I mean they're both very just dry. And it's the mountains. It's the Rocky Mountains in Southern America that causes like nearly 1,000 miles stretch of desert terrain. And the Cascades here in Washington specifically only causes about 200 miles worth a mile, and then both of them give way to grassland, because that's what happens. You hit a mountain, all the water dumps. It's arid until enough basically moisture pours in after the arid area. Here, okay, so if this is the American border, and here is the Rocky Mountains, and here is the Cascade Mountains, and like here's Mount Hood and Mount Rainier, which are massive. But so the water comes in off the Pacific Ocean. It hits the mountains, and all the water gets dispersed. That's how we have a rainforest up here, and that's how you have like Sacramento through San Diego with all these hillland mountains and forest, and it doesn't turn into desert until down here. I think the Rocky Mountains actually curve around like this and then end. And once you get past the Rocky Mountains down here, here's Mexico that comes down here. And then here's Texas, and then Florida. So here's the Gulf of Mexico. Here's the Rocky Mountains, and so all the water hits along, all the weather hits along here, and across here it's scrub, and down here it's heavy forest. So there's this arid area apparently between currents. And so basically from here into Texas, this is all desert space because of the Rocky Mountains blocking moisture. And it takes to about here in Oklahoma, Kansas, North Dakota, until you get to the American border up here. And then here's Canada. Canada has grasslands here as well, but basically everything becomes forest through here. And this all becomes forest. This is basically all desert here, and then you have mountains that happen in here where Colorado is at, and it starts pushing up this way into Idaho. So you got your mountains here, and then this all becomes grassland, and then we have the Great Lakes here, where Chicago is at, and then it keeps pushing upward here. But this all becomes grassland, and then this becomes bayou, and this becomes swampland, and this becomes dry highland with dry temperate forests. So that's basically, and then everything's forest up here until you hit the Arctic Circle, and it becomes tundra. So yeah, I'm familiar with every single one of these biomes. I've spent months out of my lifetime in each one of these. Over the course, I'm 50 now. So I spent 20 years in grasslands and bayou systems in Missouri. I spent a decade in the desert, Arizona, and surrounding areas. I'm now in Washington for 15 years, which is northern temperate. It feels like Missouri, except it's less radical, and it has mountains, while Missouri has hills. They both have excellent forests and lots of hills. The only difference is that Missouri has a temperature that'll spike anywhere from like I want to say like 60 degrees Celsius down to like negative 10 Celsius. I'm shaky on Celsius, but the range I've lived through personally in Missouri was 120 degrees Fahrenheit in the summertime and negative 32 in the winter Fahrenheit. So what is that? That's a 150 degree variance in Fahrenheit. So if I divide that by 2, it's roughly like a 65 degree variant in temperature that I experienced in Celsius. That's just, every 2 or 3 years it'll rotate. It just gets super hot, super cold, super hot, super cold. Very resilient system. In the Northwest, it's all within basically like, in Celsius, it's like between like maybe 20 degrees worth of Celsius. That has a very temperate, moderate shift. Maybe we'll get snow. Maybe I need to use air conditioning. You know, like just like a little bit further past that. So it's a very controlled up here in the Northwest. but we're also on the ocean, so that's a stabilizer. And we're specifically between ocean and mountain, so it's a really lush area. So yeah, Americans Vacation. It's just there's so many places that you can just drive to that don't require any kind of flight or boating to get to. Just get on a highway and you'll end up there in a couple days at worst. But you can change biomes basically every like 3 days of travel. Every 3 days of travel you can shift to a different biome. So if you're in forest temperate areas, you can get into desert or grasslands or into mountains. 6 days you can get from grasslands into desert, or deep forest into grasslands. And it takes about a week to get across America, I think. That's a great question, because it's really difficult to have unless you're here, it's really difficult to have a perspective of just how much here there is. It is huge. And like Europe is having an immigration problem, right? And they're like, what can we do to stop these immigrants? Imagine if you have 500,000 tech workers leaving California and landing in Phoenix, Arizona, and the kind of population explosion that state is going through, and there's literally no laws you can pass to stop it. It's just you now have to accommodate and adapt to California culture in your rustic desert community. Good fucking luck. There's no recourse. And then put in people from other countries with completely different cultures into your system, and that gets crazy. But again, there's culture shock just from going from state to state because of how different people treat each other from different state to different state, and different default beliefs, both politically, religiously, and other social norms. How outgoing are you willing to be? And you're all Americans, so how trusting are you willing to be of me? That the difference in trusting another American just because you're American vastly expands as you move away from the coasts into the heartland, because the coasts is where all the immigration happens, and people are just naturally distrusting of other people because you don't know where they're coming from. You don't know who they are. You don't know what their values are. That's just part of shore of the coastline. But as you move further and further away from the coastline, there's less and less change. There's less and less new ideas being forced or integrated into society, and you get to this core in the middle of the heartland, which happens to also be grassland and farming culture, that they don't want change. They want things to stay the same. The old ways work. You can only crop lands one certain way without damaging the environment. You only have so many animals that you can have grazing particular land, like in the Montana with bison and stuff. These are all things that are considered and stabilize a conservative society inside of a larger, diverse economy, because the borders of the coastline is where all the activity happens. Things approach and hit the border, and then they get integrated in and then filtered through. But as that border culture artificially ramps itself into the heartland, it's cheap in the heartland. It's half the cost of living as it is out here on the coastlines. So as you're making $150,000 a year coding on the coastline company, you decide to remote work in Louisiana, which has a third of your cost of living. Suddenly you're banking a shitload of money, and it causes the costs in that area to inflate because there's a huge inflection of cash from all these people that want this cheap cost of living. And it causes their culture to destabilize as a bunch of Starbucks and latte shops and smoke shops or whatever start moving in. So you destabilize what is considered, normal shopping, normal normal activity, nightlife and stuff like that. It gets changed by these these high salary tech bros that want something, that either want to stay hidden in their cave and just Uber Eats stuff so that restaurants go out of business, or want to go out and spend shitloads of money that causes the new nightlife to form that is completely dependent on these new people that show up. So there's a lot of strife that happens in these conservative heartland communities that start taking on these tech workers from coastal communities that can now remote work everywhere, and there's literally nothing they can do about it. It's just natural economics will cause that environment to change. But they're all American. They can go and they can live anywhere that they want within that 2,000-mile borderline. It's insane. It's insane that it works as well as it does. But there's these massive stretches of there's a long history of massive stretches of land where you might be the only person there, and if something weird happens, you have to be self-sufficient, because there's going to be no police that are going to be able to help you for potentially days. So if you're feeling threatened, you need to be able to resolve any threat on your own and to deal with the consequences if necessary. And that's where our fanaticism about guns come from. And the larger the country gets, and the more even neighboring states become strangers, and there's no real there's no real assurance that the community or the people in your community are going to continue reflecting your own culture. Yet your livelihood is based on this land being here and these animals that live off of this land. I can't just leave. You're either going to destroy my way of life because I'm stuck here, or I'm going to figure out a way to make you stop destroying it. And that's where the fear of taking our guns away comes from, because what happens if looters decide to steal your truck? I need that truck for my job. But if somebody comes and takes it, what are you going to do about it? What if somebody decides that they want to steal your crops? You have to defend that. And these are serious threats that people out on their own, hours, like if there's an accident, they might have to have a helicopter come and get them, because they could die otherwise. Like, that's fucking ridiculous. So it's a very, very different attitude about how America approached what do they need to do for themselves. They had actively hostile forces against the invasion of white America coming into our country from the Native Americans. The Native Americans just viewed it as, this is a really powerful tribe that's moving in. We gotta fight them off. Because all the tribes, all the Native Americans, they all had territories, and they all stole those territories and looted each other all the time. They had a huge warfare mentality between all of these different tribes, because they were all fighting for the same resources inside of America before the Europeans got here. And now the Europeans are basically taking over these resources. So what do? They fought back. Get out of our land. We're going to kill you now. So there's this long history of defending our territory from each other. So the idea that we can't be armed is insane to us. Because at any time, there could be a whole bunch of new people that show up that try to steal our land. And that's how a lot of people feel about immigration these days. It's like, we know how to deal with this problem. You shoot people. And it's like, we don't do that anymore. We're more civilized than that. But not everyone agrees we're more civilized than that. That is, by the way, how Hitler came to power. Imagine if there was a massive... instead of blaming the Jewish population that was already present in Germany, imagine instead they were blaming immigrations that were coming in and destabilizing economy, and 75% of jobs going to these new immigrants that were coming into the area. You have the grounds for authoritarian regimes to take power, because they can promise security through violence, which is what most of these autocracies are promising. Vote for me, bring me into office, and I will bring you violence to remove the threat that is keeping you from prospering. Whether it's true or not, that's the package that's being sold. And if enough people buy into that package, lo and behold, you're now in an authoritarian dictatorship. and you're probably going to war with somebody else that's managing their resources differently. So that's kind of where America's been, but we've been hiding it inside of this money system, this capitalist society that we have developed here. We've been able to basically hide that it's now a plutocracy, like we make fun of so many other countries. Oh, hey, I'm talking about politics. Look at me. Let's see if I'm still on page. What's up? Effed up, yeah. I was not surprised when I see also people in my country. But we don't have any. Yeah. Exactly. So I grew up in Missouri, which was a heartland, which didn't have a lot of immigration. So if you look different from white or black people, you're like, you're interesting and exotic, and I have questions about who you are. But out on the coast, it's like everyone looks so different. It's like I don't have the bandwidth to care who you are. You know, get out of my face. I'm busy. Like the Heartland is just slower, man. It's slower and it's more careful, and it's more, I think, in ways self-aware. But it's also very slow to change. And doesn't like people being aggressive with new ideas. It's like we don't know if this is going to damage the land that we're dependent on, so we don't know if we like these new ideas that you're bringing up. Like that's that in farmland, in rural areas, that is everything, man. It's what are these proposals going to cause the animals, the land, or the animals that I depend on living on the land to be harmed? If that is what this policy is promising, then I am not for this policy. And that's why things are so slow to change, because the vast majority of America has for a very long time been conservative, and the very nature of the republic, the democratic republic that we set up, a republic is that you vote in people to make decisions for you, because a true democracy is chaos. We saw in D&D 1E. That if you leave it to the masses to decide what's a good game, you don't necessarily get a good game. It's because the masses don't necessarily have a better, the majority won't necessarily have a better solution than what an expert can produce. So the majority then votes for an expert that they feel is going to be able to create a product that is good. And that product in this conversation is your government, the laws that you follow, how you treat other people. And so a republic is trusting that the people that you hire are going to have the same goals and ideals and basically social background that you have, that they understand what your ideals, your morals, and your norms are, and help reinforce those while progressing towards being, better in whatever regard that means. Like for a farmer, better means more autonomy in how they decide to use their land. But in an urban environment, better is that the government has more control over deciding what this plot of land needs to be for the growth of the urban environment that they are maintaining. Very big difference when you only need one person keeping an eye on 1,000 acres of land versus having 1,000 people living on 1 acre of land. Your approach to how land is being used is drastically different. And the idea of like eminent domain, where government can take your land and make use of it as a resource if necessary, that perspective changes a lot. It's like people out in rural communities, when urban people have ideas about what to do with rural environments, it's normally from the perspective of urban needs, urban excess, urban massiveness, and none of the people in these urban environments, in the rural environments, appreciate this perspective, because it doesn't take into account what they are. The urban people only think about where is this going to be, because 6 months from now it might be something completely different. So they are always having to think towards the future and what will change, while rural environments look to the future and think, what can we do to sustain? Very different, because that's the problem with these big city ideas about sustainable, like a sustainable environment, because they keep trying to do new things to change something that stays preserved by not changing it. So, like, we need to convert to, what do they say? We need to convert to clean fuel, right? It's like, but people in the Heartland is like, no, we really don't. Some areas are going to be dingy, and some areas are going to be clean. You can't make, everywhere can't be clean. It's impossible. Some areas are going to be dingy, and some areas are going to be clean. And if the dingy areas are where you're processing coal and making power provided by the earth, then that is a good way to be using resources. They aren't thinking this resource is going to go away eventually. They're thinking more around of what resources, what have we built our life around extracting these resources. Well, whatever it is that we do, we should continue to do. I am a farmer. We're all farmers. What we do is farm. So we want to keep this land the same here. Don't bring your fracking here. It's going to destroy our farming and herding environment. If you want to do fracking, do it back where you have coal and stuff. Well, we don't have fracking back where we do coal and stuff. Well, then you don't need fracking. Stay with what you're already using. It works. Like, that sort of mentality never would have gotten us gasoline. We would have stayed in steam power or horsepower. So at some point, you have to give way to progress, but this slow, conservative, why do we need this mentality really helps put checks and balances on a society to move slowly so that you can have change over generations, not multiple changes inside of one generation. It's that rapid growth that causes an explosion of new information and technology, but it destroys community. So what's more important to you, technological advancement and new ways to interact with your environment, or retaining the ways to interact with each other? That's the battle. That's the battle. And they both have merit, and they both have value. If we don't advance technology, like if we didn't start wearing shoes, parasites would bite through your feet and cause you to go mad and kill you. Like, that's why we started wearing shoes, because there's parasites on the ground that bore through your feet and kill you. That's why animals have hooves, because it's a giant toe claw that sits above the surface that's so hard parasites can't dig through them. Soft-foot people like us, we were supposed to mostly be in the trees. And then we got down on the ground and we started running around and we get hit by parasites, but we were smart enough. Like animals have padding on their feet. Those thick pads underneath their fuzzy toes is often enough to prevent parasites from getting into your feet. Though they can squirm up between the pads and like dogs' toes and stuff, so there was still a risk there. But humans, heavily susceptible to that shit. We have like the softest feet of any creatures out there. So we started developing sandals to keep the parasites out of our feet, and it caused our feet to get soft. So we weren't able to traverse rocks as easily. So it drove us away from like having claw toes and stuff to be able to bite into bark and to be able to move around trees well, to move through brush well. Our body's incredibly adaptive, but there's a harsh penalty that your body pays in being able to adapt to harden to the environment, and it's a loss in subtlety and dexterity. Interesting though. No, they have thick. They're lizards, which have scales, which are resistant. Most four-legged mammals have thick pads that are like massive calluses that sit underneath their toes. Those can be resistant to parasites. And then there's obviously like goats and horses. And this is mainly a problem in grasslands, these parasites, where there are hoofed animals. Go figure. But it's just one example. It's just one example of like why technology developing is good for humans versus keeping things the way that they used to be. The way that they used to be was not wearing shoes, and there you go. So I've got my Shadow Wolf pelt, and we have it going off of his shoulders. We've got the pauldrons coming along for this half plate that he's wearing. Half plate is a medium armor, so it's appropriate for the character's motif. build an iron a breastplate here real quick. Man, I was all over the place, wasn't I? That was a good ramble. Yeah, that was a great question. Oh man, how do I say that? Whereupon, Tupajit, what's up? What time is it? 7:43. I still got 10ish minutes. We'll continue sketching. So yeah, we're making NPC hero art. Well, this is a villain, but you know, it's all perspective, right? There. Drop that in like that. There we go. Yeah, this is a for the Eberron campaign setting. This is the Houndsman, who is a Shadow Mastiff Beast Master working for the Emerald Claw. He is a Blood of Vol Zealot from the Eberron campaign setting for Dungeons and Dragons. And so I make role-playing games, I illustrate them, and I publish them online. So this is for an adventure that we're creating for Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. So the characters will eventually have to face this guy and fight him and his mastiffs and kill him. We already have the mastiff tokens from a previous episode, probably like around episode, maybe like 220 or so. There, pouch. And we're starting to put in the belt here. What's up? What? Interrupting me? Now you'll need 8 seconds for session. Yeah. We'll call. Yeah, next session we'll color. We'll call. Yeah, next session we'll color. It looks a little. I mean, the pelt makes him look top heavy. I think I'm gonna trim that down. I know that somebody was really gonna geek out that he has a Shadow Mastiff pelt on his back, and they're gonna want it. Somebody's gonna want this. Get a little fold here. We'll put this on the back here to put some shadow in the backdrop here for framing. There we go. I love doing sketch stuff like this. Yeah, I'm really thinking when I start doing Kickstarters outside of the DMsGuild, I'm gonna want to work in black and white a lot more. DM's Guild content drives me to use color because all the free assets they provide is color. So the sort of like baseline default of D&D stuff is to, you know, use color. And since I can do it, and I'm proud to do it, very, very proud to make color. I'm motivated. I'm motivated to stay in that space, even though it takes a lot longer to create finished pieces in color compared to what I could accomplish if I just worked in black and white. Just the like at some point the joy and victory of being able to paint in color is going to give way to the practical question of, but do I need to? Like, the DM's Guild is great because all these IPs like Spelljammer and Planescape and Eberron, these are things that have been in my life for decades, but have only since the DM's Guild creation have I been able to actually create things that I can like put those official titles on. Even though I'm not getting paid directly by Wizards of the Coast to work for them, I get to get paid to work with their IPs through the DM's Guild, and to me that is amazing. So I am ridiculously proud of that. So and as an artist first and a designer second, I am incredibly compelled to just make these things look the best way they could look, because when I was a kid and I dreamt, man, it would be awesome to be a part of making these things. I would love that, and like now I kind of am. Realistically, this is the closest I'm ever going to get to actually making D&D content. I put in multiple applications with them. I'm in town. You know, I just don't think I have the clout or what they're looking for, or I'm too niche or whatever. That's okay. I'm not angry about it. It's honestly, they have a difficult time paying me when I need to get paid to quit my day job to work for Wizards of the Coast in the first place. Like they couldn't afford me. So I'm content with my day job and doing this as a side hustle until it's not. That's just the path that I'm on. But stability is more important to me right now at 50 years than taking risks and landing on my feet when I was like 25 or 30. So I have to approach the game a little bit differently, and I'm fine with that. We all have our route. I couldn't create the art that I create if I didn't spend the 30 years getting good at making it. So that now allows me to be able to use art production time as an opportunity to talk about the books that I'm making. So it's it all folds together. I'm gonna change the angle of his foot here. That needs to come in like this a little bit, I think. I am damn near out of time. So I'll probably finish this sketch tonight and get ready for us to start working on color with it tomorrow. I like that. I'm much happier with this pose now. Give that a bit of a tilt. Nice. Okay, cool. So let's see. What's my schedule? Monday through Friday in the mornings I do this, or cartography, or whatever it is I need to do to continue building the adventure, whatever visual assets are necessary. On Tuesdays and Fridays at lunchtime, I work on the martial powers system. Honestly, don't know what we're working on this week. Oh, that's right. I think we're going to be working on monks. On Thursday and Saturday, I have a workbench where I'll either do art or design work, and I've been commissioned to create alternate subclasses for the monks for the 2024 book that's coming out. So luckily, on the Martial Powers project during lunchtimes, we've been creating subclasses that use the 2024 language with the martial power system that we've been creating. So I get to take all those subclasses we've already built for the monk and then downgrade them to not use the martial power system and instead use the normal resource system that monks have in D&D. So I might be there's 6 of them that need to be covered, and the sooner I get them done, I could potentially pick up more. So if I spend time on Tuesdays, Fridays at lunch, and then Thursday and Saturday, Thursday night and then Saturday morning stream, that's roughly 10, 12 hours a week. No, about 8 hours. Yeah, about 8 hours a week that I can spend on making subclasses that I've already technically written. So I can potentially move forward, get those done quickly, and potentially pick up something else. But I saw. Okay, I'm supposed to stop when I want to do some more, and I'm really am out of my time. The legs look great. I like the posture. I just gotta fix the sword and get his head taken care of. His head's a little off. I want to fix that. But I like the frame. He looks much beefier and much more of a threat than he was before. So mission accomplished. Go us. Drop that out of the way. I'll just need a little bit more cleanup and detail work, but this is coming along really nicely. So, all right. So I'll be back tomorrow morning to do more of this. Rel, I'll catch up with you in about 9 hours for us to play some D&D, some playtesting of martial powers at 5th level. We'll see. Hopefully we'll have 4 people show up this time. That'd be grand. And I will see you guys on the other side. So thanks a lot. Laters.